Okay people, that feeling in your chest that's also in your head, it's not quite fatigue, not quite stress, but something underneath both. Here's how you know it's not just a hard week, because rest doesn't touch it. You see, you took a week off, came back and walked into the first meeting and it was there already, the exact same weight, sitting in the chair, waiting for you like it never left. Now, ordinarily, tiredness responds to rest. This kind doesn't move, which means it was never a rest problem. Now, you'd assume it's the hard conversations that wipe you out, things like the layoffs or the investor who's losing patience with you, the client that's threatening to walk. Let me tell you, it's not. It's the easy ones. The meeting where you walked in, sounded certain, answered every question and walked out looking exactly like the leader everyone needed you to be. Nothing happened in that room except you holding a version of yourself in place for 45 minutes straight. That tired, that doesn't move. Not from doing something hard, from holding something steady. And holding never clocks off, even when the calendar says you're on leave. There's research on this, and it's not about workload. Organisational psychologists studying executive burnouts keep finding the same thing. The strongest predictor isn't hours worked. It's something called surface acting, performing an emotional state you're not actually in, for an audience that's counting on it being real. Flight attendants get studied for this a lot, so do nurses. The performing itself done for long enough produces exhaustion, independent of the actual work underneath it. Nobody's done a leadership version of this study. They didn't need to. You're already living it. Every leader who said, "I'm fine," in a tone that ended the conversation, has run the same experiment on themselves. Now, early in your career, being the steady one worked. It got you trusted, promoted, and handed bigger problems. The business kept rewarding the performance, which is exactly why it never occurred to you to stop. Nobody sat you down and told you it's got a shelf life, so you kept performing certainty long after you'd stopped feeling it. Not because you're dishonest, because it's the only version of leadership that's ever been reinforced. Watch it happen in real time. Someone challenges a decision in front of the team. Half of what's running through your head isn't about the decision, it's whether your face just landed as confident. A client asks you something you don't fully know the answer to. You don't feel the gap in your knowledge. You feel the half a second of silence before you speak, and you spend it managing that instead of the answer. The actual work most days is small. The energy goes into making sure nobody clocks the distance between how you feel and how you're presenting. That distance is where the exhaustion lives, not in the tasks, in the performance of doing them well in front of people who are counting on the performance being real. Now, you don't call it performance, you call it staying composed, not letting the team see you sweat, being the calm one. Every one of those phrases is true. That's what makes them effective at keeping the gap hidden, including from yourself. Picture the scene. It's Monday, 9 a.m. Someone on your team asks a question you don't have the answer to. Not a small one, something the whole room is waiting on. You feel the gap open up in real time. And in that half a second before you speak, you make a decision nobody in the room will ever know you made. You choose the version of you that has an answer over the version of you that's actually standing there in front of them. You give them certainty and the room relaxes. The meeting moves on. Nobody in the room finds out what that costs you. You don't fully clock it either. Well, not yet. It just gets banked quietly, the way it's been banked every day this month. That's the whole disease in one meeting, not a crisis. Tuesday. This is one of the most consistent things I hear from founders. Not "I'm burned out." They rarely say that. It's "I don't know why I'm so tired. I haven't even done that much this week." The language changes, the experience is identical. It's not a personal failing. It's what happens when you build something, a business, a career, a reputation that requires you to be steady in front of people who need you to be steady for years, without a single room where you're allowed not to be. The performance doesn't fail gracefully. It cracks somewhere you didn't choose. Short with your team over something really small. Distant at home when it matters most. A body that starts sending bills you can't ignore. And your team can usually send something long before you've even said anything. They don't get the full picture, just a shorter fuse, less warmth in the room, so they fill the gap with their own story. Not they're carrying something alone, just they've been a bit different lately. When people finally notice, they read it almost never accurately. They don't see years of performance certainty. They see someone who seems a bit off. The tiredness was never the cost, it was the interest. The real cost paid by whoever's closest to you when the performance slips, and by the trust that quietly erodes while nobody says what's actually happening. This was never about doing too much. You've done more before and been fine. It was about performing well too long, without anyone, including you, being allowed to see the gap underneath it. See, most leaders think the fix is performing less well, lowering the bar, stepping back. Well, let me tell you, it isn't. The fix is letting the performance and the reality sit closer together. That's not weakness. It's usually the moment people start trusting you more, because what they're responding to stops being performance and starts being an actual person. So here's the real question, not whether you'll push through this, because you know you will, you always have. It's what it's quietly costing you to keep proving it, and how long you're willing to let the bill run before you let the gap close. If that gap is familiar, subscribe to this challenge, because that gap is exactly what this channel is about. See you next time.